What's up, everyone? This is Tab B for Bacon, and today we are looking at the AFK Arena Companions tier list that I just got done putting together. As you can see, it is very big, has a lot of units in it, has every unit in the game. And before we jump into things, I just want to have a few things I want to mention. One, we're only going to go over God tier and Great because, everything else is kind of self-explanatory. To go over each tier, God tier is can be used in a lot of facets of the game, is definitely overpowered, and you should be focusing on these units as soon as you can. Great are units that are, they might be specialties in just a few areas, but they're really good at them, or they're just really good at, all around areas in general. Or I think also units that you only need one copy of, for example, like Brutus, and they kind of shine just with that one copy, puts them into the great tier as well because they have such a low investment value. Playable are units where if you were to build them out, they can be great in some areas, but maybe not all of them, or only maybe one area. Or just units that if you build them out, they'll do great for a long time, or they'll be playable rather for a while, but there is some concerns about them falling off in the late game. And then are just units that probably aren't worth investing in unless you just like them. And then Dumpster is just my kind of units I just don't like. And you could probably argue that some of these units could be pushed up a little bit, pushed down a little bit, swapped. I'm not really too concerned about that. I think overall this is a good thing to kind of go off of. One thing I also want to note is the order that they are in each list or each tier is not in any specifics. So where you are at in the great tier does not mean Rosaline is not the strongest of the greats, or that Taline is the worst of the god tiers. I just kind of threw them in there. I think at this point there's just so many, it doesn't really matter as much to kind of facilitate and move them around, because you could argue the differences for every single character in their tier. So with that being said, let's jump into things with Awakened Solace and Awakened Taline. They're the only awakened units in the game. They are overpowered. I've never seen Taline used, but I know she'll be overpowered because she's Awakened Taline. Regular Taline is really good, so the Awakened version is just going to be better. Awakened Solace has been game-changing for everyone who's got her. She will push your Wilder Tower, campaign, arena, basically PvE in general. She is just going to make super good, but she can also be used in PvP. She's just a god tier unit. Mishka is a unit that you should be focusing as soon as you get started in Companions. She is a good CC, good tank, good damage. She just is really, one of those units you want to get. Rowan, you get a lot of free copies of. You should build him out. He's a really good support unit, healing, getting that energy kind of boost to your team. Definitely want him. Damon and Shamira. I want to talk about both of them at the same time because they kind of do similar things for Graveborns. They do a lot of damage. They can be your carry unit. Damon is obviously a little more tanky and can last longer, whereas Shamira is a unit that really kind of finishes it out. If you get going and you start killing one or two units, she starts scaling and she can finish things out. Similar to Damon. Damon also scales as you kill more, but in a different capacity as Shamira. Leica is a great support unit, but also can pump out some good damage and a little bit of CC. Sanja is a surprise unit that has been used pretty much everywhere in AFK Companions. She's really good. Good support unit, can kind of make your team a little tankier, has some debuff action, and it can also do a little bit of damage. Sanja is a great unit, worth investing in for sure. She's one of the units that I really wish I would have invested in earlier, but I just didn't really know that. I didn't know of her skills and what she was great at. And then last, Taline. Taline is a great unit because you get one copy of her, and you can really slot her in pretty much everywhere within AFK Companions, but I think she really shines in Campaign, Tower, and Forked Road. Especially, I just love, with Forked Road, the nuance of dying doesn't really affect her, so she just is basically a unit you don't have to worry about, and you can just throw her in there. She gets a lot of healing done, and she's good to go. So Taline, great for Forked Road, but can be used in a lot of spaces. So that's my god tier. I think these are units, like I said earlier, definitely should be focusing on at this point in the game if you can. All right, next, let's look at the great tier. Rosaline is a great for bosses, guild bosses, stuff like that. She can really help your damage units kind of just do more damage. That's what she does. That's what she's there for. She's a support unit to make your damage do more damage. Navati, healer, great healer for Wilder faction. Really good support unit for units like Mishka, but the Wilder faction in general. She's obviously not going to do a ton of damage, but she's going to keep your team alive for as long as possible. Brutus, I mentioned earlier, that 1 copy unit who really can push your team past certain waves in campaign or in the tower, in different wave style areas like that. Basically can stall out for your team so they can do what they need to do. And you really don't need to build him out. You can obviously, get a little more kind of value out of him, but you don't need to build him out at all. Audrey is a really surprising damage unit that have really enjoyed using so far. Sometimes you'll be in campaign and you just get stuck. You can't do enough damage, so you slot him or her. Don't know what him or her he is or whatever. And he'll do a lot of damage. And it's a lot of AoE damage and can really push your team past the wave in whatever campaign or tower or whatever you're kind of pushing. Mahira is also a 1 copy wonder type of unit that will charm the other team and then kind of push some damage out at them. She needs to get her ult off to really be valuable, and so you want to put her in where she can get her ult off, but you don't really need to build her out if you don't want to. She is a unit, unlike Audrea, that I think is okay to build out a little bit. Audrea, I don't think is worth building out right now. I think Mahira, you could argue, could be built out a little more, but you definitely don't need more than 1 copy or 2 copies of Mahira to get the value out of her that you need. Next, we have Iran. Iran is the 5-pole comp king. He is someone you want to put in the middle, goes up front, pulls the team together, and then CCs and kind of CC chains the other team with some other CC units on your team. He's kind of a classic AFK arena champ from the early days, and you can still make him pretty viable today in PvP, campaign, towers, stuff like that. So he can be really good in those areas, and he can even crank out some damage and some bosses too. I think he is definitely a unit that if you haven't built him out, you want to once you kind of get Mishka and Lycan, a few other Wilders built out. Gwyneth is a newer champ for companions. She is being seen used in campaign and towers and doing a good amount of damage, and I'm really excited about her. I haven't built her out yet. I really want to, though. I wish I had the scrolls when she was around to get more copies of her, but I just didn't have any then. But Gwyneth is great for pushing campaign and towers. Cassie is a good support unit for the Wilder faction. Her sleep can be devastating in whatever area of AFK companions you are in, whether it's PvP or PvE campaigns or towers. And, if she gets her sleep off and you have a high damage comp, basically you're good to go and you're going to finish them off. Salaki is a good support hero for the Mauler faction who can really, he's not a traditional support where he's all about healing, but rather buffing up your team a lot, which is fun. I really like his kit and what he does. He's someone that you won't really regret building out at this point in the game, especially for the Mauler Tower. Belinda is a good damage light bearer, great for a light bearer tower, good for a campaign, can be good for bosses and stuff like that. She's seen used with Rosaline to kind of proc her ult over and over again to really get that damage output going. Silas is a healer for the Graveborn comp. He does a lot of healing, obviously, or else he wouldn't be in the great tier, but also has some buffing and kind of keeping your team alive. Next, we have Nara. Nara is, the classic pull champion where she'll pull whoever's across from her, yank her to them or yank them to her, and then hopefully the goal is to kill that unit. So she's great for those comps who have that one unit that is just doing so much damage. You can pull her. She's great, not because you should really build her out, but she's great at what she does. You don't need to build her out, and that's what kind of makes her great. You just toss her in where she needs to be to pull whoever she wants to be, and hopefully that's enough to get past the wave you are in campaign or the tower. Mortis is a good buffer for your kind of carry unit on your team, great for bosses, the realm, stuff like that, where you have a single target enemy that you want to just do a lot of damage on, and you don't really need to build them out a ton. Just level 1 copy can really buff up the damage you're doing, but obviously if you build them out more, his buffs just kind of go up and up. Gretzel, good tank unit that can also do a lot of damage. He is a unit that really shines once you get him to a higher level, so he does need a higher investment. Otherwise, I think he would potentially squeak into God tier if he didn't need such a high investment. And then last is Cecilia. Cecilia is a unit that has been seen in PvP and a few other areas. She is pretty good. You need to build her out to kind of get her going, but she does what she does well, and I think getting into your back line and really going for your carries is something that she thrives at doing and something that she is great at. Okay, we are almost there. I am getting like sleepy from talking so much through this, but we got Warwick. We're the newest champ in the game. Warwick is a boss kind of king. He, I think, will thrive as you build him out and as we see him used more in different boss situations. I didn't pull for him because I don't think he's really worth it to be pulling with those scrolls, but I think we will see him starting to rise in popularity, and I think I might have ranked him a little lower previously when talking about him, but I think he'll be pretty good. Scrag, classic Mauler tank, like he is a tank through and through, kind of has some CC abilities as well, but he is a tanky boy who will do his job as a tank and is great for the Mauler faction. And then last is Titus. Titus is a kind of constant damage type unit who is going to pursue the unit with low health on the other team and kill them, hopefully, while also doing kind of some AoE damage while doing that. So he does, provide that big damage for the Mauler faction, which is really great and can be useful in other areas too, but you'll see him in the Mauler tower as the most useful spot. And then playable, as I mentioned earlier, these are units that have areas they can thrive in, can be playable if built out. I don't think they're quite at the level as the greats, but if you build these out, there's definitely nothing wrong. And there's definitely uses for a lot of these units. And that is the tier. I'm not going to go into in dumpster, but here's my tier list. Let me know what you guys think below. Hopefully that is helpful. But this is just kind of meant to be like a general guide of some units that are worth looking into, worth building. I would encourage you to kind of see where each of these units really thrive in before building them out, because you might have units that already do that, and you don't need whatever value they bring to you. Instead, you might be worth building a different unit. So look into the units before you start building them out. But this is my tier list. Hopefully that was helpful, y'all. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe below. Comment if there's anything you disagree with, someone you think should be higher, lower, or if you think the tier list is pretty good. Hopefully this is helpful, but thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.